No, I'm not brave enough to do live yet.
One
day. My subscribers has jumped something chronic since I had a big break and I wasn't on, which is a bit weird, but I'm
That's
almost
usually
at 300. I'm like, does that mean I have to like do stuff and like have lives and things?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you post a video, your subscriber count goes down. So that's it always grows.
When they're not here.
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind. Because it gave me a fright. I was like, whoa, when did that happen? So,
well, I mean, you are the resident Realm of the Elderlings / Discworld person. So
yeah, but still, it was unexpected. So, yeah. But for those who aren't in the Discord sphere, you will note I have a lovely, lovely, lovely collection of books behind me now that weren't here last time you saw me, because the very lovely Evie went behind my back and contacted loads of people on Discord who all came together and got me all of these, which brought me to tears. And I did post that unboxing so you could see my tears. And I'm going to straight up say I had to sleep for like a day and a half because of the emotion was so much. It was a lot.
Aww.
It was a lot.
I genuinely do get some sort of like weird thing, get some weird kick out of seeing people's happy tears, because I'm just like, yes, excellent.
Well, apparently you have a gift for it, because it wiped me out. I still am struggling to comprehend just the level of wonderful people in Discord that did this for me. It still feels like a dream when I come and I sit down and I'm like, I have all of those books. Look at all of those books.
I gotta touch them to make sure they're real.
I did. I came down this morning and I was like, oh, they're still here. I didn't dream it. It's so fabulous. So yes, so I now have this very lovely backdrop of beautiful books that I can physically read, and so great.
Let it be known, everyone that's watching, the only justifiable excuse for using the @everyone tag in Discord is doing things like this. That's all I'm saying. If you use it for anything, it's like The Incredibles. If everyone has superpowers, no one has superpowers. No one is super. Like, if you use everyone all the time, no one's gonna care about the @everyone tag.
No.
Anyways, sorry, venting over.
Yes. So I've been physically reading, because I've never actually asked you, Evie, do you physically read or do you do ebooks on a Kindle? Which way do you go?
So I prefer physically reading. I've recently got into ebooks mainly. So I literally got a Kindle just so I could read the ebook digital exclusive Stephen Graham Jones works. So, and then that turned into the KJ Parker stuff. And now I've started doing like NetGalley stuff. Not that often, because I've realized that there are 2 things that I liked on NetGalley and the rest have been not that great. So I was like, I guess I just need to actually be more perceptive and choosy in what I want on NetGalley. But my percentage rate is not that great on NetGalley, but we'll not talk about that. But I do prefer reading physically, this is what I'm working on right now.
Oh my gosh, you've made huge progress.
Yeah. You can see the lack of tabs, but that doesn't mean I'm not enjoying it. No. It's definitely, I went into Rainwild Chronicles not expecting, the experience of Farsi or Liveship or Tawny Man, but I'm enjoying it. So,
and it's that expectation, I think, that hurts Rainwild so much, and it doesn't deserve it, because it is actually quite good. So
I love Elise. She's so great, and I'm starting to really love Thamara.
Yeah.
We haven't really seen much of Leftrin yet, and I'm like, but I kind of oddly want to see more of him, and I oddly also really enjoy the time jumps. Like, it covers a lot of time, already.
It does, yeah. There isn't really only that one big time jump at the beginning, and the rest of it is just sort of compressed moments where it's like, okay, this is happening, but it takes a little bit too long to tell you about, so we'll just squish that up a bit and get to the next thing. But yeah, I was reading against Rain Wilds, even liking it. I was like, it still isn't what I want it to be. And I heard my own advice from a video I did, I don't know how long ago, basically saying, stop doing that. And I thought I should take my own advice on that one and read it for what it is. And really properly enjoyed my last read of Rain Wilds, rather than just thinking, yeah, it's good. I'll be back to Fitz soon. But I genuinely enjoyed it this last time. So
yeah, relish the moment. Don't just look at the end goal. Yeah.
Just be in it. And because it does have some fantastic scenes, it really does. So I'm super stoked that you're enjoying it. So
yeah, the aspects that I really like is like the Mara and the exploration of who she is.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say anything to spoil anything, but no, I just like that aspect. And then her individuality kind of mirrored against the dragons.
Mm-hmm.
So I will definitely send you Voxer messages, as I have been, explaining that in more detail. So
lovely. Because it's who else was saying? Somebody just in the last day or so was saying they quite liked Rain Wilds. And I know that there's a person in one Discord who loves the Rain Wilds. It's their favourite sub-series.
Is it Emily? I know that
Emily
read
really likes it. Right? I think it was Miriam. I think Miriam began with Rain Wilds, not knowing it was part of a greater whole, and really, really enjoyed it. Like that for her was like, oh, I need to find more by this author, and then discovered the greater world, which I think is marvelous. So, and we've recently just had somebody decide they're not going to do the Fitz books. They've started Ship of Magic, and I was like, is there a reason you haven't read Farseer? And I'm like, yeah, it didn't interest me. I was like, if you're going to read on, you're going to need to read Farseer. And after the course of the conversation, it's probably likely she's just going to do Live Ships and Rain Wilds. So that's going to give me a really great insight, though, into how the plot works without the Fitz context. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm genuinely going to be chasing that poor lady for her insights. What did you think when this happened? So,
did you get this? Did you understand it?
Did that make sense with, yeah. So
sorry. My cat is going genuinely nuts.
George did that last time too.
It must be you. Like
me.
She just knows that you're on and that I'm talking to you, and she's just like, ah!
Yay. That's right. I'm a cat person. I'm happy that George is excited to hear me. That's great.
George, you're a crackhead.
Somebody has to be.
Like, yes. Yeah, right? And let it be known, there's no catnip in this house. So it's not the catnip.
Okay. Right, we believe you. But yeah. So I think probably what I might sort of go off on a tangent with is, obviously, to be in Rain Wilds, you've now read Farseer, Live Ships, and Tawnyman. Mm-hmm. So of the 3 series at the beginning were the ones that were going to be the entirety. That the end of Tawnyman was going to be the end of Fitz. And
you can definitely tell that reading it.
Yeah. Because it feels kind of like the end of a big story.
Yeah, it feels very definitive, and which kind of makes me sad, because the things that happen at the end of Tawnyman, I think that they would have had much more impact on me if I'd read them at the time, or I didn't even realize that there were other books in the series, because things that happen, I'm just like, okay, but I know that there are so many other books after the fact, so that's kind of really...
Well, it's a bit like what Alan says about spoilers, that just mentioning a name means they're still alive.
Yeah.
And the last trilogy is called Fitz and the Fool. So in all of the earlier books where they're in moments of peril, you know that somehow they're going to be okay because there's a whole trilogy to come.
But at the same time, with that said, I'm still incredibly compelled and invested, and it makes that those moments are still very impactful. Even though I literally just said that the last bit, it just kind of just the last conversations basically at the end of Tawny May, and I'm just like,
yeah. I mean, I've said it before. I mean, I think I was really lucky in some ways to find the series when I did, because I found it just before Fool's Fate was published. So I think I read everything up to Fool's Fate twice before Fool's Fate came out. Wow. And then I read Fool's Fate, and the sense of peril, the unknown of how this is going to go was real.
Wait.
I was so stressed out.
Wait, so you're telling me, because I'm pretty sure she wrote Golden Fool, or at least they were published within a year of each other or a year apart.
Yeah.
So you're saying that you read the entire books up to that point twice in a year?
Yeah, because at that point I was still reading in isolation in New Zealand. So it was like, what is there? And I didn't have a lot of money for books. And I was only doing physical books, which are expensive in New Zealand at the time. And well, they still are, but I didn't have a Kindle. I couldn't do a cheaper version. And that's what I had. So I would get to the end of what I had and then read what I had again. And so, yeah. But it was a stressful reading Fool's Fate, not knowing what was to come. Like properly stressful. So I think I did find the series at exactly the right moment, because I got the full impact of that closing section of the book.
I mean, it's still a satisfying ending, obviously.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. And again, it's why I say that The Rain Wilds gets a bit of a bad rep. It's a hard reboot.
How do you follow that up?
Yeah.
It's like...
It's a 9-book climax.
Yeah.
And then you got to start again.
Yeah.
It's a big drop in everything. Just tension and investment to start again. It's a big call. So
have you read the Soldier Sun trilogy?
I have, but I read them when they came out. And when they came out, I wanted more Fitz. And I very much held it against that trilogy, that it wasn't Fitz. So I was reading against it, and it wasn't fair. And I'm planning to reread them in the new year. So I can go in with my newly discovered... Absolutely. With my... Yeah. And I'm going to take it for what it is and hopefully see far more of the brilliance that I was working against when I read them the first time, because I've learned that that's a thing since discovering BookTube. And if I'm going to be a Hob Queen, I should, be genuine and do the thing.
I'm being purely selfish and what? How do you? Jesus Christ, Kat. Did you hear that? Oh dear God. Gone insane. Anyways, I'm being purely selfish and what's the word? I don't even know what the word is, because we already have a buddy read planned of Cloven Hooves in December. So
this is true. But
at
that's
least
okay.
We'll be both going into a book with no prior knowledge.
That's
so
right.
It'll be great.
Yeah. And
regardless,
exploring the back catalogue, which is going to be fun, because really the only other Megan Lindholm I've read is in the short story books in The Inheritance that I got from the library. When did I last get that from the library? A few months ago was the last time I read it. And I really tend to only read the Hob stories half.
Yeah.
But I read a few this last time round, and one of them was so charming. It was called Neighbours, and about older people who were going slightly batty, and the family's trying to look after them and going, can you really maintain this house on your own? Come on, we can find you somewhere nicer to live, and trying desperately to hang on to their independence, discovering a parallel world that they can sometimes get into and sometimes can't, depending on their mental state, and making them appear even more batty, because now they're talking about people that aren't there and things that aren't happening, and one person's already decided to just make the leap and just go and live in this parallel world. And
that's under her Robin Hobb name?
That's under Megan Lindholm. That was in
okay.
the Inheritance short stories. And I really liked it. I was like, I like this. So I think I'm going to be okay.
What's the Harpy's Flight, I think? I cannot find it anywhere. I wanted to start with that, of her Megan Lindholm stuff, but I literally cannot find it anywhere. It must be out of print, which makes me very sad.
Yeah. And a little bit confused, because people know now that Megan Lindholm is Robin Hobb. Surely name recognition alone would suggest it's worth reprinting. Yeah. Surely.
You would think, but
I'll have to hunt the libraries and see if they've got them. Might do. I'm sure I've seen it somewhere. But it may have just been
will. Yeah, I will say, freely admit that the reason that I'm really excited about Cloven Hooves is because the main character is named Evelyn.
Yes.
That's about it. Also, the fact, and the premise sounds like I start to question my sanity that I'm so interested in the premise, because apparently it's about a middle-aged woman named Evelyn who falls in love with a satyr.
Yeah.
And apparently it gets a little erotic. I don't know how accurate that is, but I'm like, all right, I don't know why I'm into this, but I'm intrigued.
It's enough to make the eyebrows go, we can have a look at that and see how that goes. So we'll see how we go, because this is the thing that the Soldier Sun trilogy, looking back on it, and BookTube in general has taught me, is you have to accept the book for what it is and not try and make it what it's not. So I've had to learn to do that, and I'm prepared to do that now because I know how to do that now. So,
yeah, expectations can really ruin a book for you
so badly. So, and you're allowed to still not have your expectations be right, and go, I don't know what I wanted from the book, but that wasn't it.
Yeah,
it's who knew that at nearly 50 I could still be learning how to read? But I am.
I still don't know how to read, apparently.
Yeah,
like a lot of the books that poor Angela, she's like, I thought you were gonna love these books so much, and because we did a TBR swap, and she gave me 4. I read 2 of them. I gave 1 2 stars, or 1 2.5 stars, and the other one 3 stars, and then I DNF'd the other 2, and I'm like, these are just not the right time, right like wrong book, wrong time for me. At that point. And she's like, I'm starting to question everything. Like, I do I even know how to recommend books anymore?
Yeah. It's something that I do find quite funny, because I have found that when I do my Discworld videos and I talk about places to start and things you might be interested in, it's a very general recommendation. But when I talk to somebody individually, it's so much more specific. It's like, okay, what are you actually into? Is this something you like? No, then don't read that one. Don't read that one first. Read this one first. Yeah.
Speaking of Discworld, I was this close before picking this up.
Yeah.
I was this close to picking up Equal Rights, because I'm like, I kind of want to get back into Discworld, because I'd only read Color of Magic, and this was before BookTube.
Yeah.
It was fine.
Yeah. Even Terry, and it's confirmed in his biography, even Terry says don't start with those ones. Not my proudest moment. But yeah,
well, you got to start somewhere.
Well, yeah, and Hey, I mean, again, a bit like
Writer
Jane
and reader
Wilde's,
alike. So
it's a thing. It's beginning a thing.
Yeah.
You just kind of let it be what it is. But Equal Rights is good. But I think you'll love Weird Sisters. I think you will just absolutely love the witches in general. To be fair, they're fabulous.
I know this is gonna anger Alan, but the premise of the We Free Men actually is intriguing. And
I love the Tiffany books. I love them, like properly love them. I have a We Free Men sticker on my window because I love them.
Because I can't remember the exact quote, but there was a quote that someone had like posted, and I'm like, what is it? This is really good. Like, this is from Discworld. I gotta find out which book this is from. I want to read that book.
Yeah.
And found out it was from the We Free Men, and I was like, son of a bitch. Sorry, son of a biscuit.
I love Tiffany, and I love the We Free Men, and I love that they're basically just drunken, angry Scottish Smurfs. They're brilliant fun. They're just the most fun ever. They get their own voice in the audiobooks.
Oh.
The newly released audiobooks, I actually think are really, really, really good. And I loved the previous audiobooks. The new ones have a different main narrator for each sub-series. And the same guy does the voice of Death in all of the books, because Death is in pretty much all of the books. And the same guy reads the footnotes. And they're the only continuous thread through the audiobooks. All of the wizard books are read by Colin Morgan, who played Merlin, I think, in the recent TV show. Sian Clifford from Fleabag does the voice for the Death books. No. Yes, that's right. And Indira Varma, who played Ilaria Sand in the Game of Thrones TV show, she does the voice for the witches. But in one of the witches books that I've just got hold of on my audio, there's another voice that they've brought in to do all the Scottish voices of the Knack Macfeagle, which is glorious because it's meant they've got somebody with that really broad Scottish brogue to do it properly. And it's fabulous. I love it so much. It's perfect. It's so good.
What's your opinion on Pyramids?
Pyramids is, it's a good.
By the way, if you couldn't tell, I haven't watched any of your Discworld videos, that's fine. So I'm so sorry.
That's fine. Nobody has to have watched any of my videos before watching any other of my videos. Pyramids is one of the early standalones, and I think this is the point at which Terry's discovered a lot of things that he wants to talk about, and he's sort of playing with concepts. I spoke to Raf Blutext about it in our last talk because he disagrees with me on some of the aspects. But for me, Pyramids was his first go at some of these concepts. And some of those concepts come back again later, done slightly differently. And he looks at religion as an organized system versus belief. He looks at mathematics and how close to magic mathematics can be. And he looks at Egyptian gods, and he looks at the effect progress has on very traditional cultures. And it's a really fascinating book, but it's very strange. It's a strange book.
Yeah, it was either Equal Rights, Mort, or Pyramids have been the ones that have been like my pull of like,
okay.
I want to get back into Discworld, but I those are the three that I'm like, which path do I take?
You need to take the witch's path. That's the one that's going to feed your soul the most. So
I do like death because I'm morbid.
But death is fabulous. Terry Pratchett's death is he's just marvelous. He's so human. Or rather, he wants to be human. He's intrigued by humanity. He's fascinated by the fact that humans live in a universe full of all of this amazing stuff, and we make up boredom. He's like, but there's so much out there. What? He doesn't understand.
So, going back to the witches books. So I was looking at like the Discworld reading order or whatever, and it said that the We Free Men is a Tiffany Aching book. Yes. So is Tiffany Aching a offshoot of Witches? Okay. Yeah.
The Witches they have all of their books, and the last properly Witches book, that is the first Witches you meet that you're following, is the one I've just got on Audible, Carpe Jugulum. And then it becomes, and they live in the mountains. They're very, funky, crooked cottage in the woods kind of witches. Mm-hmm. And then we meet Tiffany, who's a young girl, and she lives on a farm on the chalklands on the downs. So it's sort of sheep. It's sheep fields. It's vast stretches of green rather than craggy mountains. Yeah. And she's learning to be a witch because she's chosen to be a witch. And so the Tiffany stories follow Tiffany, but the older witches make frequent visits because she's a young witch and she needs assistance occasionally. And they sort of come in and check how she's doing and teach her things occasionally. Or as Granny does, just show her that something can be done and she can just work that out for herself, because that's how you learn. So for me, it's just an extension of the witches books. For me, he's just focusing, instead of the older witches, he's found this young girl character and run away with that. And she's brilliant. I love her. It's not a spoiler to say that she uses a frying pan in her first adventure, because it's on the cover of the book. And any 9-year-old who goes up against the Queen of the Fairies with a frying pan is all right by me.
So to switch it from fantasy stuff, have you read any classics? Like, do you have any favorite classics or anything like that?
I have read some classics, not a lot. I did have, for the longest time, a really pretty collection of hardback Jane Austens. You'd have loved them. You'd have absolutely loved them. They were darling. They were all in pastel shades, sort of gently going from a pale pink to a sort of lilac through the blue shades. Beautiful, beautiful set of books. And I read them all at least once. I did like Pride and Prejudice the most, but I did like Sense and Sensibility. That's really good.
Sorry.
Was that a judgment call or?
Sense and Sensibility is my least favorite Jane Austen. But it's fine. It's fine. It's not bad. It's like least favorite Jane Austen to me is still like
pretty up there.
A+, not quite S tier, but
But I did only read them once. I know, because I was reading them basically just to be able to say that I'd read them. But I actually enjoyed Pride and Prejudice. But I'd come into it after loving the BBC adaptation from the mid-90s. So I was sort of predisposed to love the book. So
alas, disappointed, no shirtless Mr. Darcy coming out of a pool. Or was he shirtless he jumped into
he got wet. Colin Firth.
Yeah, there you go.
He wasn't shirtless. But it was I liked that adaptation. I thought it was really charming because it was BBC. It got to be a bit longer, and they got to really get into the characters a bit more. And I liked the woman who played Elizabeth, because
Jennifer L.
Yeah, I think she played it. Yeah, it is, and I think she did a really good job of being just quietly cleverer than everybody else.
Yeah,
I liked her.
I think I can speak for everyone of my age that I'm partial to the 2005 Keira Knightley version. So
a lot of people are. I find it really hard because I don't see her as Elizabeth.
Really?
Yeah. Huh. And again, I think it's an age thing. She just seemed a little bit too forward for me to be Elizabeth, if that makes sense. But that's me projecting, because I knew of Keira Knightley as an actress rather than meeting her as Elizabeth. So I've brought baggage with me to the character. whereas I'd never heard or seen of Jennifer L before. So she just got to embody Elizabeth, and she did such a good job of it that you're like, well, that was brilliant. How could you beat that?
Yeah.
So it's hard to fight that when that's the first impression, and it's a good one. It's really hard.
Well, something expectations, I guess. Yeah.
It seems to be our running theme of today's chat.
Yeah.
We could use that to go into adaptations in general. Do you have a good book adaptation that you like to watch?
Not Persuasion.
No, I did watch that. I've mentioned that before. Your drunk viewing of Persuasion is one of the most gloriously fun things I've ever seen on BookTube.
It still makes me genuinely angry that it's so bad. Oh
yes.
Anyways, a great adaptation, which caveat, I didn't read the source material until after I saw the film.
Yeah.
Which is probably lends to why I love it so much.
Yeah.
Is Arrival.
Okay, because I haven't read the source material for that, but I did love the movie.
Yeah, it's genuinely, it's my favorite movie of all time. It's beautiful. Amy, I mean, I'm an Amy Adams fangirl, so I love her. Good. She's fantastic. And I just loved how Denis Villeneuve explored what I discovered, obviously the themes are explored pretty plainly in the film. Yeah. But after watching the story, oh my God.
I do that all the time.
After reading the story, The Story of Your Life by Ted Chiang, which is in Stories of Your Life and Others collection, which it's Ted Chiang, his collections are fantastic. You should definitely read them. It's not like a direct adaptation. Like, for me, the best way that I can describe Arrival as an adaptation is it's a complementary adaptation.
Okay.
Like, it changes a lot of things about the character and like character relationships and stuff like that, but it's staying true to the text and like the thematic exploration that's being done, and it's just going about it in a different like angle, and I just think it's so
that just makes me want to read the source material even more, because I did already want to read it, because I did enjoy the film. Because when you're watching the film, and it probably took me about half the film to figure out that we were seeing flash forwards rather than flashbacks, and the fact that ultimately she chose to do that anyway was quite a powerful thing for me to watch that film. It's like, that even knowing what was to come, I still want that experience. I still want to have had everything. Yeah. And that was really moving. I found that really moving. So
you can cut this part out if you would like when you post this. I don't mind if it's on the internet, but I saw the film in the theater with my husband, and I was pregnant at the time, and I was very early. I was like 6-7 weeks along, so very early. But we were excited or whatever, and so I was an emotional wreck. Like I was bawling, and like even if I wasn't, I would have probably been bawling. But
more so because hormones.
Yeah. So I saw the film that night, and the next day I went to work, and I had a miscarriage.
Aww.
And just everything that happened, like in that time frame, I think that made the film that much more powerful for me. And I just
it was like that emotional hook that goes, this connects to me. This is relevant to me. This is
and Yeah, and like I even tried doing like a video review of like, you know, why I love Arrival, or, you know, best adaptations or whatever, why I love Arrival. I tried filming it like 5 separate times, and I couldn't do it because I was just bawling. I'm like, I can't, like, it's so,
well, it's interwoven at that point. It's too intimate to your own life.
This is in no way equating it, but like similar to how I did my like Jane Austen for fantasy fans or whatever thing. I can't find a fantasy equivalent for Persuasion for me, because I'm so connected to the book that I can't separate my nostalgia, my history, whatever with it, my feelings about it, to objectively look at, okay, what's a good equivalent fantasy book for,
because there isn't. The personal nature of it doesn't exist with another book, so you can't equate it. It's like, no. But I mean, I get it. I mean, for me, Arrival was very poignant because I lost contact with my children. So do I wish I'd never had the experience where I had my children? No. Not in a million years. Does that mean that I don't wish things had been different? Not at all. But this is what it is. And I wouldn't change what had happened.
Yeah.
So it spoke to me as well. So, and that's some writing, that it can take two very different situations and find its way into your heart and go, this is relevant.
Yeah. And so the thing that one of the things that I really love about the film and the text is that Arrival for me is really that exploration of choice and destiny, and like, would you if you knew the end,
would you do it
would
different?
you still make the decision for yourself to go down that path? Whereas the text, the story itself, is really, for me, about control when it comes to that. So because if you've never seen Arrival, if you haven't read the story, go away now. I'm gonna give spoilers, and hopefully you don't mind, Derri.
That's fine.
But the story is the daughter does not die by cancer. She dies in an accident that could have been prevented. And that's really the exploration that Louise goes through, is like,
what do you do different?
Do I control her? Do I stifle her? To, you know, don't go on this trip, don't ever go hiking, don't ever go rock climbing, whatever. And it's such a wonderful exploration on either side.
And allowing that freedom to still make those decisions. And
it's just Ted Chiang, just to go to Ted Chiang, he made me realize that I could love stories. And just because his stories aren't even stories, they're just thought experiments. And I love that type of reading experience where I can just like have a conversation with the text, which is another reason why I love Robin Hobb. Again, not having much of a conversation with this text, but still loving it. But I just love having like a thematic dialogue with what I'm reading. So
I mean, I do have Ted Chiang on my holds list at my library, but I'm like 12th on 2 copies or something. It's going to be a while before I get it. But as for the themes in Rain Wilds, you will be encountering some soon. Very much around societal expectation and what causes societies to have some rules and not have some rules, and I don't want to go too far because I don't want to spoil anything, but there does become some deeper themes come to the forefront. Certainly not to the level that you would get that or have had to this point, because I think it is aimed to some degree at younger readers.
It's definitely I don't want to say more straightforward writing style, but it's more, I think it suits the writing style is still obviously Robin Hobb, but it suits with the story that's being told. Whereas, Farseer or the Fitz books and then Live Ship, it is very intimate. Even though with Live Ship you are following multiple characters, you're still very intimate. You're following a certain group of people over a set amount of time. This is following multiple people over already at this point 6 years, 5 years, something like that. And you're seeing them in very like you said earlier, isolated moments that will come to a point at some point, but it's not about the intimacy, and the tension is not on that.
No, it takes a little while to sort of coalesce into something we can really get hold of. Where I say that it's probably aimed at younger readers is it's not as complex as the previous 3 trilogies. Like there's only really the one main story thread that you're following, whereas in all of the others you've got multiple things all going on at once, even in Fitz books, because even though you're in Fitz's head, he's aware of other things happening, and the magics allow him to see what's going on, whereas the Rain Wilds is very direct in its storytelling. It's like, this is the story I'm telling.
It's very linear.
It does become more complex in the last 2. We get additional story threads come into it, and it begins to feel more like the Robin Hobb that you've become familiar with, but the first 2 are much more this is where we're going. I like them,
but I like it. So Andrew from Andrew's Wizardly Reads, suck it. So I like it.
That's okay. Just don't watch Nico's video on.
Freaking Nico and Andrew. But going back to adaptations, have you seen The Green Knight?
I haven't. I wanted to, but COVID was happening, and I was like, no, I don't want to go and sit in a theatre, and I haven't watched it because I don't know where it's streaming in New Zealand. I should look that up because I'm sure it will.
It is one of the 2 films that my husband and I braved the theater for. We were 2 of maybe 6 people in the entire theater to watch the film, and I absolutely adored it. Again, second to Arrival, one of my favorite films of all time. It's very, very rare that I have a viewing experience of a film or a television show where I feel like I get a literary experience of being able to have that conversation with the text. And The Green Knight is so good. Oh God, it's so good. Shameless plug for the conversation that I did with Philip Chase and others, because who else would I have the conversation on The Green Knight with other than Dr. Fantasy? So
because knowing the source, I think would have a huge impact on whether or not you enjoyed the film, because it's not, if you don't know the Green Knight story, then it's going to be a very odd experience.
And it's another one of those adaptations where it is very much a complementary adaptation. The focus is obviously different because The Green Knight was written 1,000 years ago, over 1,000 years ago, and the social norms and ideals of the day were about chivalric, ideologies or whatever.
Are foreign to modern audiences. So
and what I'm forgetting the name of the director, but what he did with the film, just he simultaneously paid great homage to the source material while still, I wouldn't even say bringing freshness to it, but and not even bringing modern sensibility to it. it's just so complimentary. I don't know how to describe it. It's just something that
I know that
it's just
because
so
I did
good.
watch your discussion with Philip because I wanted to see the movie and I wanted to hear your thoughts. It very much sounded to me, and what I am anticipating when I do watch it, that it's the story being told very cleverly through a modern lens without impacting the meat of the story, just shining that light slightly differently to show more modern aspects to the story without changing the story. That's how I feel. It doesn't
like, it's not like what is it, A Knight's Tale or whatever, where it's like bringing in modern like music or anything like that. It's very much a period piece, but it feels still like, I think it's really just honestly just showcasing the universality of literature, not just the Green Knight, but the potential of the universality of literature. Like, you don't have to be in a time of a place, of a culture to be able to appreciate or interpret something and in a particular way and find meaning out of it.
Well, I'll do my own shameless plug. It goes back to my discussion with Philip when I was on his program, again with the TV references. We talked about universality of stories, and I sort of said everybody's story, every culture has traditions and tales and myths and legends. All of them are valid. These are all stories that we've told each other, and we're all evolutionarily, is that a word? I think so.
It is now.
But we haven't changed as a species in thousands of years. So those people were literally no different to us. They just didn't have indoor plumbing and air conditioning.
Yeah.
But their stories will mean the same. So their stories about love and loss and honor and courage and loyalty, they're going to have the same meaning to us. So their stories are no less valid because they're old, and you might have to learn, a dialect to get to the heart of it. But the story is just as valid and is going to touch you just as well emotionally, so long as you're able to get the language right. And luckily, we do live in an era with internet, and other people can translate it for us. And go, I want to know about that. Somebody's translated it, I'm sure. And pretty much they have. So we get to have stories like the Green Knight. And we've been able to get things like the Odyssey and the Iliad. Sadly, we don't have a lot of Native American stories, and that's a shame. I would love to have some. The Western world isn't aware of much Indian or Chinese or Japanese ancient history or law or tradition. So I love that we're starting to see that.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, it's there. Yeah. With like, at least, mind you, take what I say with a grain of salt. But from what I know, obviously Native American storytelling is very much based in oral storytelling. Yeah. So I know people have gone about to transcribe like the traditional stories and stuff like that. But if you just listen, like they're there. And like with like Chinese literature, Tale of Genji, that is just as old, if not older, than the Green Knight. Yeah. And it's being made aware of the stories and going to look for them, because they're not in your they're not in your bookshop. We have the internet now, and we can go out and find them. And I love that we can do that, and wait for a sale and get half a dozen translated works for maybe $8. Brilliant. Yeah. Get round to them when you feel like it. But the value of stories, I'm a huge proponent for the value of stories, because how do you make points about things that don't exist? How do you explain loyalty? How do you explain courage without stories? Because they're not things. You can't go, okay, it's shaped like this and it's this color and it looks, they're not there. They're not things. So you have to tell stories. You've got to frame it and go, that's courage. That's loyalty. Stories do that. And these are things that we've deemed important
as humans, we've gone, no, we want our people to have these things.
And to kind of take this on a like existential crisis mode, if you really think about it, yes, humans haven't changed, but we also been here for a very small amount of time.
Yeah.
Like written human history has been what, 6,000, 7,000 years?
Yeah, a blink in the eye of history.
The universe is 4.7 billion years old?
Much older than me.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
It's something that Terry Pratchett uses in the Science of Discord books. When he talks about time, they made up a unit of time to make it easier to understand, and he uses grandfathers.
So is that the Science of Discworld? Is that the kind of satire one where he's like, they're trying to explain human science?
Yes.
Or something? Okay.
Yeah, they're brilliant. But they make up this time frame of grandfathers. Rather than talking centuries or millennia, it's this many grandfathers ago, because people know how long ago their grandfather was alive. And so if your grandfather's grandfather was maybe 200 years ago, it's easier to get that in your head as to how far away that is. So when he talks about 17 grandfathers away, you're like, whoa, that's a long time. Whereas millennia doesn't mean much. But 17 grandfathers ago gives you a sense of how many people have lived since then. And I loved that as a time period. So when you think about the grand scale of the universe, that is the Googleplex of grandfathers. That is more grandfathers than have existed ever put together. A really long time. And yet, as individuals, we tend to see the world as existing within one grandfather. This is the world as we know it. This is the world that we know and trust the history of. This is factual.
Yeah, I mean, not to get like political or anything, but like I feel like especially nowadays there's this desire or pursuit of absolutes of it is either this or this, black or white, true or false, right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much nuance in the world, like just
in general.
In general, like
Fitz explains it really well, because you see it in Tawny Man when he looks back on events in Farseer, and you see him have to reassess things he thought he knew the truth of. And he had facts. The facts were there. He knew the facts, but he didn't have the right framework for them. So yes, he had facts. What he was saying was truth. What he was reacting to was truth. He didn't actually know what was going on. More information shifted what he thought was truth, because facts don't equal truth.
By the way, that makes me so angry when people are like, oh, but science changes all the time. Yes, science does change all the time, because
that's the point of science.
Change, we'd still be like worrying about like using the humors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like science takes new information, reassesses, and changes with the new information and new knowledge. Like that's called growth. I'm sorry. Okay.
But when I get to that whole science is always changing, I'm like, that is the point of science. That is literally what it is for. That is the definition of science. Questioning this and going, is it still true? Yes. Okay, that we can leave that there. Is this still true? No. Okay, that means we've got to change everything that we've assumed because we didn't know this.
It's been a while since I've been in high school, so I think, was it like hypothesize, test, theory, or something like that?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. And it's
then
one of those things that modern language has changed, because now a theory is what used to be called a hypothesis, because a theory is something that has yet to be disproved. It's not just the first idea you had. So if we use A Song of Ice and Fire, a theory, because now it has been pretty much proven that, yes, this is where the books are going. Spoilers, anyone. Jon Snow is the child of Rhaegar and Lyanna. But it was a theory for a long time. There was enough information in the books that we have to go, that's pretty definite. Like you can't poke a hole in that theory. That's as solid a concept as we can come up with. A hypothesis, however, is saying that Ashara Dane is married to Howland Reed and is the mother of Mera and Jojen. That's a hypothesis, because there's still a lot of room there. It could be true, it might not be true. It fits what we've got, but it's not solid enough to really argue without more information. So, but nowadays, theory is the name for anything you throw out there, which is confusing, I think, to some people.
Well, I mean, like you said, that's what language is. Like, you know, the conversations that are the valid conversations that are going on now of, like, you know, what words are appropriate to use in today's society and not. Like, I know that the word queer is, like, apparently kids nowadays want to say that that's a slur. My age group and probably older, queer is not a slur. No,
it was deemed at the time an okay usage, in the same way that saying who was it? Somebody had somebody up in arms about a racial slur, and she was an older lady, and she was like, "Well, that's what you called
colored." I think it was.
It's like, but that's the usage that this person grew up with, and was her way of not being offensive, not understanding that usage had changed in the interim.
Well, I mean, to go back to classics, even something as simple as the words intercourse, and conversation. Those two words mean totally different things nowadays. Like to have an intercourse with someone, back in, you know, Regency time, was to have a conversation. To have a conversation with someone, that meant something more steamy. Now it is like, it's the opposite.
That's right.
Intercourse.
Well, there's also the question of context around language, because we still have this sense of where it is appropriate, in that even in the same day, you can go from one situation where some language is inappropriate to another situation where not using that language is inappropriate. If you go to a party and everybody's half wound up, then if you're going to speak strictly properly, you're the odd one out. You need to loosen up and be a bit more free-flowing, perhaps, in your language. Versus at work.
So back in the day when we actually did go into the office, I accidentally dropped a goddamn in a meeting with executives.
Whoops.
So I was like, oh crap. I shouldn't have done that.
A little forceful for the scenario. But you say that around family and friends at a barbecue, and you've all had a couple of beers, no one's even going to notice. Let alone go, oh.
Context nuance.
Everything.
There but you go. We're circling back.
So is culture. In the last couple of days, I've had people going, oh my God, the language in this book by Jay Kristoff. For me, as somebody living in New Zealand who knows a lot of Australian people, has lived in Australia, I'm like, he's Australian. He's being restrained. This is a thing. So even in today's world where we're so connected, and at any point in time we can talk to anybody anywhere in the world, where you would assume language is having reduced barriers, that everyone was speaking mostly the same to everybody. No, there's still, this person that I'm talking to isn't going to appreciate me using the C word. But if I go and talk to this person who is perhaps a slightly tiddly Kiwi, I'll get away with it. This person
By the
over
way,
here.
You calling me a magnificent bitch, I'm like, that's amazing. Like, I love that.
that was a heartfelt reaction
context,
in the moment.
Context. If somebody else had called me that word, I mean, I already said it, bitch. Yeah, whatever. You don't care about not getting monetized, right? But like it's all about context. Like,
overwhelmed in the moment, that's going to be the words that come out of my mouth. Yeah.
If you were angry and then called me that word, without a adjective, I would have been like,
true. You did get to be a magnificent one. So. But yeah, it's language in itself is such a powerful thing, and I've said, who did I say this to? I said it to Raph. We're readers. We like words and how powerful they can be, and how used in the right context and used in the right combinations, they can give us such different emotions. And a good writer knows how to play with them, knows how to manipulate them and get you feeling something.
And the added layer to that is my right is not the same as your right. So absolutely. Like the beauty of literature is that, as much as I love Robin Hobb, I know she's not going to be for everybody. No. Like, and even you and I, like, we can read the same text and get almost totally different experiences out of it. And even me, like, you've reread these books countless times, and you've mentioned it before that as you get older as an individual, your perceptions change and you get something new. Human nature is so interesting and weird and philosophical and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it really is.
Armchair psychologist, philosopher over here.
Well, I remember quite a long time ago, and I wish I could remember where I read it, but I remember reading that the reason a lot of children don't remember a lot of people don't remember their very earliest years is because they haven't learnt language yet. And language is what helps you retain memories, because you can explain it to your own brain and say, that happened then when this happened, and the thing that happened was this. And I haven't been able to find it. I didn't go out and look, but I haven't found anything else about that. But I remember the concept of that needing words to frame your reality has stuck with me really strongly. And it's why it was easy for me to understand when my therapist said to me, use a different word, because the context of the meaning of that word is coming with the statement you've just told yourself. So use a different word that brings different meaning. And that spoke to me. I was like, yes. Changing the words you use to frame a thought, the words you use to frame an occurrence, alters the way you think about them.
Yeah, I mean, it's sorry, I'm doing two things at once. So
that's okay.
So yes, to boil it down, totally agree with your therapist. It's the equivalency of going back to Arrival and to Story of Your Life. I'm trying to remember the thing that he used as the kind of background of it or whatever. Crap, what is it? It's there's a word for it, but it's basically like how language is used forms your brain. So if you learn a different language, so say that you know French and you can even dream in French and you're fluent in it, how you perceive the world might be a little bit different in that language.
Yeah.
Which, again, spoilers for Arrival and Story of Your Life. Go away if you don't want to know. You know, Louise learning the alien language, she realizes that her perception of the world becomes different because she's learning this new language, and the way that they form language reflects the way that they see the world. And by her learning the language, she's now starting to see the world the way that and time, well,
she
and
gains that additional perspective, and can look at things differently. And that's the power of words, because that's what they do. And I actually have tried this theory, and it works. If you're ever in a conversation that's starting to get a bit nasty towards somebody, whether they're in the conversation or not, all you have to do is say one nice thing about that person, and the conversation completely shifts. And it's freaking brilliant. And I'll tell you, it works online too, where, you know, you'll get a string of people all, you know, piling on. You only have to say one nice thing, and then suddenly everyone goes, oh yeah, actually, I know a good thing about this person too. Yeah. It's not a difficult thing to do. So it's the power of language. We're all followers. As much as we all want to think that we're individuals and we're strong-willed and no, we're a leader and we're all followers, all of us.
Yeah.
We are going to go where the herd takes us.
Admittedly.
Yeah. So it takes a bit to sort of tell yourself that when you find yourself caught up in this whole, I'm totally going to pile on. I've got something bad. Actually, I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
Only takes one to go, let's actually be nice. And people are just as happy to change direction. Unless it's the character of Kyle in Live Ships, at which point even I have nothing good to say. And I can find something good to say about pretty much everything.
So, yeah.
Are you going to give me a hot take? Are you going to tell me something positive about Kyle?
Really? I mean, not really positive, but
really?
Just more that I loved what Robin Hobb did with Kyle, like his arc and how she left him.
Yeah.
And goddamn gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
So
freaking
gorgeous.
Robin Hobb.
Yeah.
So good.
What I absolutely adored and still adore about the character of Kyle in Live Ships is he's not the main villain. He's not even the secondary villain. He's a nothing villain. He is just there to sort of explain stuff and give some conflict.
So that's
and yet
one of the things
he gets from me the most visceral
reactions.
I really hate that character.
Yeah.
And yet he's not the big bad by any stretch. But he's the one I loathe.
Yeah. Feel free to, cut this out. I'm not lagging again, am I?
Nope.
Okay, just want to make sure. So, Jesus, Mary and Joseph. Another thing, because I guess this is just going to turn into a Robin Hobb gush chat again, is surprising.
I know.
Is that, like, there are no villains in any of Robin Hobb's books, at least so far. There are antagonistic characters, but I mean, what we were talking about before with Joanna is like you understand their intentions, and like Kenneth is an antagonistic character. Regal is an antagonistic character. Oh, that's the character, sorry, that I actually want to say positive things about. Is Regal.
Yeah. But I can see that there could be good things to say about Regal.
You totally understand his intentions.
Yeah.
And does it make what he did good? No. But
does it make what he does logical?
Yes. Yeah, but Fitz has done things that are
just as bad.
Yeah. So, but yet, I like him. I love him.
Yeah. And this is the thing, is if we had got that story from Regal's perspective, how much would we hate Fitz?
Yep.
And that's the beauty of it, really, because I can't find anything good to say about Kyle as a reflection on the fact that Robin Hobb has given me a character who, even with his motivations, I cannot get behind.
Yeah.
I just can't. No. I refuse.
Yeah.
Not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. I promise you this now. If I read this series 100 more times, I'm not ever going to find something redeeming in Kyle. I hate him that much. That is such an entrenched thought in my brain now. It doesn't matter what new thought I come with later. It's not going to change. I hate him.
And we are referring to Read by Kyle.
No, we're not. We're not going to bully Kyle anymore. He has discussion-worthy points of view.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just...
And he does argue very well in that he doesn't get personal, he doesn't get nasty, and that gets points. So
he's much better than the Kyle.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
We love you, Read by Kyle. I'm just giving you crap. Just kidding. But I will publicly shame Angela, though, of Literature Science Alliance. She has put Fitz in timeout with the Golden Fool. So she's like, I can't deal with him.
What? Why?
I don't think she's the biggest fan of Fitz. No one understands Fitz like we do, Derri.
Clearly.
Okay?
Clearly. Is this about the argument? Is this about Fitz's stand on the argument? Yeah.
Yep.
That's okay. I got pretty angry with Fitz about that too. I got over it, but I even when I reread, I'm always like, oh, Fitz, really?
Yeah. Dumbass.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing with Fitz. You
have
know
to
that
do that.
Like,
you have to go,
you're
an idiot.
Even when you love him, you know he's a dumbass. And you're just like, dumbass. Dumbass. Dumbass.
Yeah.
Other page.
Really?
Dumbass.
Really, Fitz? Come on. Yeah. No,
but then you read another page and you're like, oh, I see myself. Am I a dumbass? So
I
see myself so much in him. Does this mean I'm a dumbass?
Yeah. No, I am not backward coming forward and saying that Fitz is an idiot. He is an idiot. I love him. He's not the brightest. Night Eyes is very definitely the brains of that particular relationship. Yeah, very definitely the brains. But Fitz, Angela, come on. It's Fitz. He does learn. Slowly, but he learns.
I mean, live ships is her like favorite thing of all time. So
which we can't blame her for at all, because live ships is phenomenal.
Yeah. So I mean, if Robin Hobb did more of that, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, yes.
In fact, I think Angela would really enjoy Soldier's Son.
Is it multi-perspective, or does it follow one character?
It does follow one character, not quite so intimately as Fitz. But the world is very different, and it's what I told Alan, it's Flintlock adjacent.
Oh.
So because I really think Alan is gonna really like Soldier's Son.
Real. I didn't.
Well, because it's sort of colonization and, you know, us against the natives kind of situation. And, you know, the new coming up against the old in magics and yeah, it's a thing. So yeah, I think I'm looking forward to rereading Soldier's Son, put it that way, so that I can more accurately put words around what I want to say. Hello, we'll just push. Have you settled down now? Have you had your funny 5 minutes? No, the eyes are still big.
No, she's constantly angry. She's like, how dare you manhandle me? How dare you try and get cuddles from me?
How rude.
Hi, George. Yeah, I boogies. Anywho.
But yeah, so I am looking forward to going back to Soldier Son and not being expecting it to be Fitz. Because it wasn't Fitz, and I didn't like it because it wasn't Fitz.
I can't remember. Have you started the Dandelion Dynasty, or do you have any interest in that?
I will probably start it at some point later next year. I'm trying to do the Winter King at the moment, and my brain is going, I can't. I'm like, but I want you to. So it's taking me a while because new books are hard, but that's okay. I can always get it out from the library again if I need to.
Other short story collections that I would highly recommend is The Paper Menagerie first, and then The Hidden Girl and Other Stories by Kim
okay,
Liu.
because I've got The Hidden Girl. That was on sale. I picked that up from a bookshop for $6, I think.
It's definitely different from The Paper Menagerie. Like, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts if The Hidden Girl is your first collection that you read, as opposed to Paper Menagerie, because a lot of people that read the Paper Menagerie first and then go into The Hidden Girl, they're like, this isn't the same thing. Because like I think the way that Angela described it is Paper Menagerie is like his greatest hits, whereas The Hidden Girl is like a very personal indie album, which is oddly for me though, The Hidden Girl is more like cohesive in its thematic exploration, whereas
well, I will let you know.
Menagerie is they're both fantastic though.
I mean, I've seen The Paper Menagerie all over BookTube over the last year. Just sort of sporadically pops up here and there, and everybody raves about it. So I'm like, that's definitely one I'm going to get to at some point. And then I saw The Hidden Girl on sale, so I was like, well, I'll pick that up because everybody raves about Ken Liu and these short stories. So,
well, whenever you do get to that, because I have a tendency to take short story collections very slowly, because I just do, like, I want to give each story its breathing room and time rather than having to compare one to the other. So whenever you pick that up, let me know. I will reread the collection with you. So
I will.
Again,
we're going to run out of space for other people in our TBRs, you realize.
Yeah, well, this is what happens when I find people that I connect with and that I like. I'm just like, I want to absorb all of their time, and I say this half jokingly but mostly seriously. I get a little bit like, oh, you're hanging out with other people other than me.
Very possessive. I'm the same.
Yeah. So this is why I only had one friend at each school year, because I just got very possessive.
You just chose this one this year. Okay.
Yeah. This is my friend. So
well, I'll be honoured then, because I'm being Evie's friend on the internet this year. Woohoo! So
no, I in my age, as I've learned my eccentricities, I've learned to manage that. So I will get a little bit like, oh, you're leaving me out, like Alan. What was it that Alan described it? He's like, it's like I'm on the playground, like what is it, on the outside looking in on people playing stuff.
Oh yeah, you're at the window with the rain. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
I will definitely feel like that, but I'll just be like, okay, fine.
That's all right. I had a note on Jimmy did a live chat yesterday with Alan again, chatting with Nuts. Alan's been on there like so many times. And he's like, oh, how long has it been since I've been on here last? And my comment was, not as long as me, because still no chatting with Nuts.
I almost commented to be mostly snarky to Jimmy and be like, I see there's been a very massive lack of female representation in your chatting with Nuts.
Seriously though, like seriously.
Well, I mean, he's got to go where the viewership takes him. And
Alan's always going to bring in the viewers.
60% Alan, 70% Alan. So
yeah,
I mean, got to hear those Alan rants.
Nobody dislikes a chatting with Nuts with Alan, because Alan is gold. And basically just giving Alan a format to be Alan. Yeah, it's fabulous.
Like, you just have to say one word and he'll just go off on a tangent. You don't have to say anything.
Sometimes you don't even have to say anything. Jimmy went to say something and just got Jimmy for a good 5 minutes. Don't even start.
And I'm like, yes, the
Here we
KJ
go.
Parker.
That was exactly what I was doing. I was sat at home watching, and the minute Alan did that, I was like, oh, here we go.
Which, have you started any KJ Parker yet?
I have not. I tried to get, was it black and gold? Purple and gold? A colour and gold. A colour.
Blue and gold.
Whatever it is. I couldn't get it unless it was in an omnibus of other things that isn't available in New Zealand. So I have to find a way to get that.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because
KJ Parker is really difficult to get hold of outside the States.
Yeah, I wonder why it's like Academic Exercises ebook isn't available in the UK.
Like, it's really weird.
Or like anywhere other than the US. Because
I did try. I had a couple of weeks there. I was like, I have to get hold of these. I mean, Alan is raving about this. I have to know what he's talking about. And it was so difficult. I gave up and hadn't really gone back to try. But I do intend to at some point. Because, as I say, Alan just, you know what he's like. He can talk about anything and make you want to read it.
It's true. As I have recently proclaimed him to be, he's the Contagion, because he's so contagious with his elusive praise and also just disdain. Like, it's like his disdain for
J. Christoph
and Rysand, whatever his name is. It's contagious. So it's like, I guess I hate Rysand leaning too.
Yeah. I pushed against it last year when I read Empire of the Vampire. I was like, no, I want to know if it's that rubbish. And it wasn't. It was glorious. And so, yeah, I've taken my stand on that one. Only my love for Discworld has held my position with Alan after reading and enjoying J. Christoph. So I feel very blessed in that way. I can get away with reading J. Christoph and not be horrendously thrown under the train every time, because I love Discworld enough.
You're not on the what does he call it,
the prescribed list.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah. My Pratchett love gives me the free ticket on that one. So such a relief. But I do feel for him though, because it's like I get it. When he finds something and it's like, actually, this is really good, and he gets other people reading it, but it's such a small group of people in the scale of the book world that when bigger people get hold of it and they spread it and it becomes this thing, he's like, well, I did that first.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, you totally did.
It's a natural thing. Like The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. Freaking loved it. I mean, yeah. Admittedly, I wouldn't have known his existence unless it was for Angela.
Yeah, Angela's.
And Nick from Wicked Good Books. Like, he's actually the one that put the Vanished Birds on my TBR. So I was like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah, because you loved that as well, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic. And then I was able to get The Spear Cuts Through Water because he was like, request an e-arc, we can buddy read it. And then I wound up reading it.
That's right, you got it. You were so excited.
Way quicker than he did. He wound up not even finishing it until after it was published.
Oh my God.
We actually have a discussion planned next week, I think, to discuss
cool.
it. But we're just gonna, wing it. But it's like I'm just waiting for the moment when somebody big, when it starts to get popular, and I'm just gonna be like, I liked it, or it was cool.
Yeah. No, you don't be grumpy about it. You get all holier than thou on it. You get like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm worth watching. I find the treasure.
I'm a self-proclaimed hipster, or like I shouldn't say. I'm a self-proclaimed wannabe hipster. That's my title.
I am a self-acknowledged pleb, and that for the very longest time, I only knew what was popular. I only knew the bestsellers. I only knew what the mass media told me was good. And on my own, I've gone, okay, of the things that I found, these are the ones that stood up. Mm-hmm. All of the other things just didn't hold up to reread. These ones did. So I'm going to talk about these ones because I know these.
Yeah.
And yay for literary gems that haven't a target audience of maybe 26 people. Great, lovely. Those 26 people can love it and sing its praises forever. But I quite like edgelord vampires. I'm okay with that. I'm not that difficult to please, so long as it's not complete drivel. And yet, having said that, I will also read Twilight. Because it is complete drivel, but I'm old enough to go, yeah, every single interaction is a red flag. I don't care. Still going to read it.
I admit I was into Twilight during the Twilight phase. I had my Twilight phase. Oh, now she's going back to being crazy.
But this is it. It's like I don't actually necessarily need or look for deep introspective works that make me question my existential reality. My own brain does that to me enough with my depression. It's like, I don't want to be visiting a lot of those places in my brain. Light and fluffy, all good.
Oddly enough,
yeah.
As Angela has described it to me, I like very sad, depressing books. And which is true. Like, oddly enough, not even actually, you know what? I'm not even gonna like put qualifiers.
Yeah, it's not an odd thing.
It's cathartic to me.
Yeah.
Like reading Fitz and his depressive ass, it is so cathartic. I can acknowledge that he's a dumbass.
I have always acknowledged he's a dumbass. I did not know until I discovered BookTube that he was depressed. Because he felt normal to me. Everything he did was normal. All of his reactions were normal.
Which is why in our discussion with Joanna the other day, why the realization that he was being abused and that was abusive behavior shook me to my core.
Yeah.
Live on camera.
Yeah.
Because I made that realization. Like, I thought that was normal. I thought that was not okay. Like I was trying to
don't see it as being wrong. You don't see any of it as being unhealthy or in any way a growth impediment to his emotional state, because it felt so completely normal to me that when I first found BookTube and people were sort of pushing back, going, oh, but Fitz is so depressing. When I'm going, but Fitz is amazing. I'm like, how is he depressing? He's depressed all the time. I'm like, no. And then it happened to coincide with a therapist. And I was like, oh, actually. Oh.
Which he can be depressing, but it's called empathizing.
Oh.
Like,
empathizing. But I wasn't practicing empathy. I was just coexisting. And it struck me that other people had to be performing empathy to get it, where it was normal for me, but only getting that external view from other people showed me that. So for it to be cathartic, for it to be a freeing of something, I totally understand. Had I not already got a love of the story and the world or whatever, I may well have gone, this is too close to home and I don't want to read it. I may never have read it more than once. So I'm kind of glad I didn't know that and fell into it and loved it anyway. But it is why I tend to avoid books that I do know are going to look at things that I don't really want to think about. So yeah. That's just me.
Which is, to go back to Persuasion, one of the reasons why I love Persuasion so much is because Anne is a wallflower. She is overlooked. She is literally described as, and this is where I get my channel name from, she was only Anne. Yeah. This kind of less than, like,
nothing outstanding, nothing out of the ordinary, nothing to get your attention.
You know, there's a catharsis in Persuasion for me as well.
Yeah, because you feel seen. Like,
yes. And
It's a strange expression that you feel seen. That's going back to the language. It's one of those modern usages that has come about. And it's such a great sentence because that is how you feel. You're like, yes, somebody has noticed that this is a thing and acknowledged it.
And the
best feeling ever.
And the thing that I admittedly, I don't want to say I struggle with, but like I am trying to find a balance with is this the ideas of stereotypes, whether it be in literature or film or television, whatever. But obviously there are terrible stereotypes, but you know, some stereotypes are a valid like person's existence, like coming out stories, like, oh, like it's someone could say, oh, that's a terrible stereotype if someone says, oh, I'm just gonna pray for you when you come out to your parents. Well, that's what my dad did. Like, like that a person's experience can fit a stereotype.
Well, they only become stereotype in the same way that cliches become cliches. They're true to a great number of situations.
But applying it to everything else is like, I think that's
the stereotype is a beginning point. It's not the be all end all. The stereotype can give you an initial hook to something, and then you have to explore it more to see where it moves away from the stereotype and go, okay, you know, this person shows as the brainless, shopping, obsessed bint from upper society who doesn't have two brain cells to rub together. But push that a bit further and you find that actually this is social pressure to some extent, and she actually has a lot of inferiority complex and wishes she could have gone to, I don't know, seminary school. She's actually deeply religious. You don't know. But until you decide to go further, that stereotype holds because that is how that person presents. So they're a starting point, stereotypes. And a lot of people have forgotten that. They've gone, oh, you're that. You go in that box and that's how I'm going to treat you forever.
Again, context, nuance. There are no absolutes.
That's right.
Circle this right back around.
Fabulous. Just fabulous. But, I'm actually going to stop the recording there because we're at almost an hour and 3/4. So if we haven't lost you by now with our incredibly wandering conversation, which I may or may not even post, who knows? Like, subscribe, all the things, and you'll catch us next time.
This could have been just for us two.
It could.
So
out of here.